Believe it or not, but back in 1949, Syria was a secular democracy having different political parties and elections. However, at that time, if you went against the interest of a foreign power, you had to get ready because sooner or later your government will be overthrown. Hello and welcome back to The Hidden Wars. I'm your host Ashkan, and today we're going to look at the case of Syria and the early obstacles they faced in their modern history. Before I start, I would like to mention that if you like our content, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button. That way you will get notified every time when we drop a video. Thanks for your support. Syria is an interesting case, as it is a very diverse country in the heart of the Middle East. Its population has a mixture of different ethnicities and religious groups, and it is safe to say that it is one of the most diverse countries in the world. Its modern borders are a product of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, signed after the First World War, which divided the former territories of the Ottoman Empire and split them between the winners. France got to control Syria until the Second World War, when the country gained its independence. After that, Syria crafted a fragile secular democracy based on the American model. In 1949, the democratically elected president of Syria was Shukri I can't pronounce his name properly, so we're gonna just stick with Shukri for now. So, as I was saying, in that same year, when he got elected, an American company began the construction of the Trans-Arabian Pipeline. The project was to connect the oil fields of Saudi Arabia to the ports of Lebanon via Syria. In order for the pipeline to be constructed, all of the countries that it was supposed to go through had to agree. Syria was the only country to refuse, as it did not agree with the condition that it was offered. As soon as they refused to approve the American pipeline, coincidentally, in that same year, a coup attempt led by an army general called Hosni Al-Zaim succeeded in toppling the democratically elected government of Shukri. As soon as this guy got in charge, very first major policy proposal he did was to approve the US pipeline and allow it to go through Syria. It's not 100% sure which country was behind the coup attempt, but there is evidence showing that the CIA helped organize the coup by supporting Al-Zaim financially and logistically. Also, the very first thing he did when he came in charge was to approve the pipeline, so I mean, it's pretty much obvious which country helped him. Also, to back it up, there is this interview with an ex-CIA official.
The Syrian case, when we overthrew the Syrian government.
If Hosni Al-Zaim wanted to have a coup, and if his intention was to get rid of the corrupt government and establish a democratic government, we should leave him alone and stay out of it.
And that was the State Department policy, but in fact, you very largely organized, directed it, I mean you personally, but you're among the team who did it, organized and directed this coup.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, most probably the CIA helped him. Shukri, however, managed to escape and fled the country. Syria was then plunged into a crisis, and then, in just 4 months, the American-backed regime of Hosni Al-Zaim got overthrown again in a coup, and the country was very destabilized at that time. After a few more years passed of instability, in 1955, Syrians again tried democracy by re-electing Shukri as their president. This time, having faced trouble before with the CIA and the American attitude towards him, he decided to distance himself from the West and declared his neutrality in the Cold War. Because at the time, there was the Cold War going on, so countries were basically either leaning towards the Soviets or leaning towards the US. And he declared his neutrality, which is fair enough. However, this was not satisfying enough for the Eisenhower administration, which prepared another coup attempt. As we discussed in a previous video, the CIA managed to organize a successful coup attempt in 1953 in Iran. Now, in 1957, after feeling confident and with lots of cash, the CIA agents arrived in Damascus with $3 million to bribe military officers together with politicians and to also organize fake demonstrations against the democratically elected president. Also, they worked together with the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a transnational Islamic organization which is founded in Egypt and promotes religious involvement in government and promotes religion becoming the primary driver of social change and law. It's basically an Islamic party opposing secular rule. The CIA agents then planned to assassinate the chief of Syria's intelligence service, the chief of the general staff, and the leader of the Communist Party. In addition, they planned to trigger a confrontation between Syria and their neighbors, most notably Iraq and Jordan, in an attempt to use it as a pretext of both countries invading Syria. At the time, the governments of Jordan and Iraq were controlled by corrupt monarchies and were already under the influence of Britain and America. Unfortunately, all that money that the CIA had failed to corrupt the military officers. That's some loyalty they have for their country. Loyal people. Syrian soldiers then reported the bribery to the government, and in response, the Syrian army invaded the American embassy in Damascus. The coup plotters were exposed and expelled from the country. The Syrian regime, then fearful for another coup attempt, decided to purge all political parties sympathetic to the US, which is understandable, and jailed all Syrians that helped the coup. Because of their actions, the Americans alienated most of the Arab countries in the region and pushed their governments away from an alliance with the West. Later, after the failed coup attempt, Syria went on to unite with Egypt and form the United Arab Republic, which lasted from 1958 to 1961. After that, Syria went on to build a strong, long-lasting relationship with the Soviet Union or Russia, which still lasts to this day. That was the consequence of American covert actions in Syria. They lost a potential ally and upset a lot of countries in the region. To summarize and wrap up, the CIA again trying to interfere in the internal affairs of an independent country, in this case, Syria. The Syrians had a democracy as early as 1949, and instead of encourage its development and build a potential and strong ally, the United States government chose to send the CIA to overthrow their democracy and install a puppet dictatorship for economic and financial benefits. These actions had a big impact on Syria's development as it destabilized the country and changed its future political landscape. It also set an example for other countries in the region, which will eventually lead to revolutions in Iraq and Libya and many more countries, which we will cover in another episode. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.